Once you understand, hey, when I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, I retreat, and that creates this other thing. So me retreating is an issue. If I can change that, I mean, the whole dynamic would change. So, but we don't try to change that. What we try to change is the trigger to that. And so the trigger to that is the feeling of I'm not good enough. And so once you understand this, oh, I got to change this I'm not good enough because it's leading me to all these things that I've decided isn't good enough. Now I can make a decision because the decision is important. The commitment to change something is hugely important. It's the first step forward. So now I can say, listen, I know what's going on, and I don't want to engage in this moving away anymore because it's not good for me. It's not good for my relationship. So I'm going to change that. Perfect. Once you decide to change that, there's two different paths here. I'm going to start with a simple, straightforward type of technique that you can use whether this issue is just, light, recent, or something that's really deep and old. The first thing you want to say is, okay, I'm going to change that feeling of I'm not feeling good enough. I'm going to change it. So what does that mean? You got to stay with the feeling. So you stay with the feeling of I'm not good enough, which is not fun at first, to stay with the feeling that I'm not good enough, because that will stop you from doing the next step, which is moving away. So that's gone. That's gone as long as you can stay here in the feeling. You don't have to move the other way. You can just stay here. And what that does is, first, it removes the particular issue that you're trying to address, and it also heals this idea of I'm not good enough. Because if you can just stay in the feeling of I'm not good enough and breathe and really feel that moment, that is a healing process. That's a healing process because you're attending and nurturing instead of criticizing and ignoring or rejecting this feeling. So that's going to work great regardless, to change a dynamic of the feeling leads to a certain behavior. But a lot of times our feelings are old and deep. So we need stronger interventions. And that could be doing stuff like inner child or parts work or EMDR or mindfulness, meditation, anything that will get us out of our heads, basically out of our thinking heads, anything that will move us from our cognitive immediate world to our deeper unconscious world, right, of what lies behind the intellect. So anything that will get rid of the intellect so we can go to a different part of ourselves, to a different knowing, which can then come out because the intellect usually is in the way. The other thing that is really important is the expression of each moment in this step. Even the expression of like, hey, I've been thinking about this and why it happens, and I think it's this, and I really want to get rid of this, and I'm going to try. And then when I'm trying, I'm talking about like, oh, this is super hard, this is super scary, oh shoot, I messed up. Everything that goes on, especially around like the feeling of not being good enough. The more you can express, I don't feel good enough, the more it goes away. Lastly, you can catch the feeling beforehand, but you can also catch it after, meaning after maybe you're involved in the behavior that you're identifying is problematic, like the pursuing or the avoiding, and you are in that mode and you didn't catch the feeling that came before that. You can stop and say, oh, I'm avoiding. Am I feeling like I'm not good enough? Is there any of that in there? And if there is, then I go back to the feeling and I stay with my feeling.